Hi there, everyone. This is Gregory Brennan with Virginia Clean Cities. I am the Sustainable Transportation and Infrastructure Manager here. I'm happy to present today Derek Whaley from ROUSH CleanTech to give us a presentation. If you'd like to know more about Virginia Clean Cities, please look in the description below to find your email and website address, as well as Derek's email and website address. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below or send us an email directly. If you'd like to join and be a part of future technology happy hours, just follow the links below, and we hope to see you at the next one. All right, with that, I will pass it over to Derek.
Alrighty, well, very cool. I appreciate you guys coming in, and golly, I'm not supposed to be here. Let's just start that way. Tom Hopkins is the area manager for Roush CleanTech, but he was called away for an assignment, and I'm actually on vacation. So when I saw happy hour, I was like, this is exactly up my alley. But Clean Cities as a whole is arguably, I don't know if it's still considered the best kept secret in the country for sustainability, but I would have to speak on behalf of Roush that Clean Cities has been probably one of the best behind the scenes, just truly technologically and fuel agnostic, or energy propulsion agnostic to finding the best solution for the best class, whether it's hydrogen, electric, natural gas, propane, biodiesels, you name it, right? And they've been a phenomenal partner. So any chance that we can help support you guys and partner with you guys to help just educationally promote what's going on in the clean, sustainable world, we're happy to do it. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly, and Gregory has my slides, so he can happily share with anyone afterwards. And of course, I'll be here for questions. So a little bit with Roush and our story, and that's basically what I really want to share with everybody is what we've been up to. So if you see Roush 50, we're celebrating our 50th year of being in business. So this is the same Jack Roush as most people are familiar with when it comes to Roush Racing, Roush Performance Mustangs. So it's a 5,000 employee global privately held engineering services company at its core. So Jack, like great entrepreneurs have, started in a garage, tinkered, built something incredible, and then kind of replicated the process over the last 50 years and leveraged the really automotive and mechanical ingenuity genius and into a lot of different vertical markets. So Jack, when they asked him, what's the legacy of Roush? Is it NASCAR? Is it performance? Is it engineering? He said, I just want to create a company where I can attract like-minded people that are just technologically curious about what they're into, whether that's marine, or aerospace or automotive or autonomy or sustainability. So really cool minds between the walls of Roush, and we are very, very passionate about sustainability in a lot of different areas. But I kind of like to start 50,000 feet up just to kind of give a little bit of credibility. So because I've been doing this for, golly, it's probably close to 16 years now between my two roles, and propane's been really at the center of all of it. I've seen a lot of different technological companies come and go. And it kind of saddens me because I'm such a passionate believer in sustainability and new technologies and trying things, but it is what it is sometimes. And what we like to be able to promote to people is if you choose to work with Roush, whether that's propane or natural gas or electrification, autonomy, or whatever the broad vertical markets that we touch, we're very heavily diversified. So we work with every single OEM on the planet, whether that's on-road or off-road, aerospace, marine application, and anything in between, really, from a defense standpoint. But then also every single Disney and Universal park in the world has Roush DNA integrated through of it. A lot of them being our near zero emission dedicated propane autogas fuel systems helps get people to and from the hotel to the theme parks, right? So it's really cool to be able to pull from a lot of different engineering services that we work with and apply it overall. So we like to give a large really cast a large net of diversification for our engineering services. I would argue that about 90% of what we do is under the Roush Industries, so that's shrouded by NDAs, behind the curtain engineering services, but that gives us a fortune really of educational currency to be able to apply to a lot of our other different divisions within Roush. So we've got the NASCAR team, we got performance, and then Roush CleanTech, which we've heard Jack behind closed doors just brag about, talk about legacy, something that he can leave behind as a technologically provider to be able to help reduce emissions, but also provide domestic security and fiscal sustainability as well, with especially in times like this. So, not trying to coin the farmer's phrase, but we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. We are very passionate about propane. Don't get me wrong, and I'll talk enough about it today for sure. But really, of all the different fuels and propulsions that are out there, whether someone drives them or it drives itself, really finding a need in the marketplace for mobility is really where Roush specializes. So I'll pick, the Google Firefly or a Waymo, or some of those Neuro AI delivery bots, which were pretty popular during COVID. Is we take a chassis company that we work, automotive is something we know, and a software company, let's pick Google for example, and we help integrate those things to help better and improve a service or an application. But whether it's charging or hybrid or dedicated or class 1 through 7, we've been pretty passionate about a lot of different things and work with a lot, which has given us a wide variety of knowledge to be able to apply Jack's $100 million into what we believe is a great application when it comes to propane. So we don't believe propane is a one size fits all. Actually, we don't think any one energy is a one size fits all. I know we've lived through a few trends, but I truly think it's going to take everything, kind of the same approach that Clean Cities has, right? It's going to take all the different clean technologies that are out there to help get to a path to zero, which ultimately is what everybody wants. But practically, getting there is what we're trying to do as efficiently and responsibly as we can. So right now we're at a very unique fleet viewpoint in our automotive world, especially when we're looking at fleet makeups that are return to base, whether it's people, packages, produce, doesn't matter, right? A lot of things get shipped on wheels. So we've come from diesel and gasoline, where we've got a 250-year really since the birth of our country, familiarity, infrastructure in place, low capital costs. However, as we head into, especially into 2027, we are going to see some serious increases in complexity, specifically for diesel, right? On the after treatment side, a lot of people, we always tell them if you love your diesels, now you're really going to love them in 2027 because they're about to triple up on the after treatment. Love might not be the right word, but volatility on the fuel price, right? We're seeing this on a geopolitical stage. Is what can we do to help insulate and help, whether you're a private or public fleet, what can we do to help protect that bottom line and keep costs down, right? So that's be a little bit of a yo-yo, a little bit of a roller coaster ride. And then there on the environmental side, right? There's not too many people cutting ribbons for gasoline or diesel new fleet vehicles that are in there. And then you go to the other side, right? Where we're dealing with electrification and hydrogen fuel cells, a lot of great pros, environmental aspect, funding availability, traditionally, maybe not so much now, but also on the low operational cost. Nobody beats it when it comes to, cost per mile. However, when you factor in the high cost of the actual vehicle, the duty cycle limitations, and then the infrastructure and the grid and the charting, and then where are we getting these precious metals? Where are we mining? Who controls the interests of those precious metals, right? So there's a few things that we need to figure out, but a fantastic solution that's out there. But we believe that propane for the class 4 through 7 market specifically is an absolutely fantastic, where we get to pull from the pros of diesel and gasoline, the familiarity, the infrastructure, the low capital costs, right? We are the Saudi Arabia of propane. We have 93% of the world's most of propane comes from these United States, and the other 7% is kind of split between Canada and Mexico. Infinite shelf life, like it never goes bad, and we can transport it through a wide variety of different applications. But then on the environmental side, right, we meet 2027 emissions and projected 2031 emissions right now with the simplicity of just a catalytic converter and O2 sensors. And that's because propane is a very, very stabilized hydrogen fuel source. It's 3 atoms that bind 8 hydrogen atoms to it. So you kind of get the best of both worlds when it comes to the cleanliness and the stability and the low cost. So that's what we're going to unpack today. So descending down from 50,000 to 40,000 feet, I'm a baseball guy, always have been. I love the scoreboard. So right now with propane and with Roush, we have over 55,000 vehicles that are currently on the road since 2007, since we launched. So we're pretty proud of that. About 4 billion miles on the road and over 4,000 individual fleets. Some of those fleets I'll get into here in a little bit, but one of the things that differentiates propane specifically for Roush is our application for OEM, right? So there's a lot of different propane systems and markets out there. It's the 3rd most widely used fuel on the planet. A lot of people know that. And it's been around for over 100 years. But with Roush, what's unique with us is our OEM ordering operation. So Roush has a great 50-year relationship with Ford Motor Company. We're one of the few companies in the world that Ford gives complete and total access to their coding calibration, so we can optimize and reflash the ECM PCM specifically for the parameters of propane because it's different. It's 110 octane, right? It has a little bit different flash point, ignition point. Also, the injection's a little bit different because it's a drier gas. It's still a liquid, but keeping it under pressure and knowing when those injectors fire. Again, probably not enough for this podcast, or excuse me, this webinar to be able to unpack all that, but wanted to give an idea that it's as much as a plug and play as much as we would like it to be. It's a little more complex underneath the hood now with a lot of the different electric control modules that are there. So what we like to be able to offer fleets is how you currently order and spec out your school bus, your transit vehicle, your beverage hauler, your bakery hauler, USPS operators delivering mail. You can order your vehicles exactly the way that you have been, and you just spec in a gaseous prep option and a Ford ship through code. So it comes straight from Ford and through your body upfitter already running on propane exactly the way that you would have it on gasoline and diesel without voiding any of the warranty. So your service provider plugs into the OBD2 and all the diagnostic equipment, and it comes in exactly the way that they've traditionally been used, as opposed to having multiple ECMs or PCMs underneath the hood. So it keeps it very simple and seamless. So everything we do is dedicated. Everything we do is EPA CARB certified for 50 states. And we're very proud of our ultra low NOx near zero emission footprint. Now, what I control or I hold super, super close to my heart is our relationship with Bluebird. So Bluebird is one of 3 school bus manufacturers that are out there. Bluebird only builds a school bus. They only ever have. And we partnered with them back in 2012 to deliver our very first propane powered school bus because they had a few generations of providers that they had, but they were all aftermarket and they were all not warranted through a high volume OEM provider like Ford Motor Company. So what was really cool, and I got getting a front row seat to this in my career, is the CEO of Ford, the CEO of Bluebird, and the CEO of Roush all coming together to say, hey, we can make this work, right? Let's take a great powertrain, let's take a great school bus manufacturer, and Roush as an integrator say, hey, we've worked with both. Let's help bring this solution together and put it into a school bus. And that has kicked off something that's been pretty exciting. So we've got, this is our flagship school bus offering that we have, 47, 67, and 93 gallon that are available. I like to keep it simple. That 93 gallon is going to take you over 400 miles, even if you drive it like a bandit. That 67 gallon is going to be about 300 miles. And then that 47 gallon tank, actually, that was our last tank that we engineered because of Boston. Boston has close to 500 propane powered school buses that are running, and they needed a 169-inch wheelchair lift bus to be able to navigate through the cobblestones. So we went back to the engineering review board and came up with a shorter tank for Boston Public Schools specifically. This just kind of gives you an idea. I stole this from our engineering department of CAD just to kind of show we mount the tanks in between the frame rails. So we're not strapping to them the hood or putting them outside the chassis or outside the frame rails. When we're transporting the world's most precious cargo, we like to adhere to the most stringent safety standards on the planet. And currently that's Canadian because the Canadian Motor Vehicle Safety Standard doesn't even allow loss in pressure when you ram a 4,000-pound sled at 40 miles an hour into the back quarter panel where the rear entrance is. And we've passed with flying colors because we're dealing with 1/8-inch ductile steel bulletproof tanks, and we have 3 different mechanical and electronic shutoff viewpoints between our systems tank all the way to the injector. So infinitely safer than gasoline or diesel, but we also like to be able to monitor and mirror exactly what gasoline and diesel fuel injection is doing as well. Also, this gives you an idea of where we've been at and what we're up to. So whether it's Denali National Park, as you can see all the way up in Alaska, down to Miami-Dade, Los Angeles, all the way up to Acadia National Park, and really anything and everything in between. So when Jack looked at all the different propulsion and energy sources that we have and we work with, he said, I want this to be able to work in sunny and 75 California, all the way into the Rust Belt, into really cold corrosion environments in Minnesota, where there's just a lot of gravel, all the way up into some of the operators in Manitoba and Alberta and Quebec. So currently, right now, the cold weather record is negative 55 degrees below zero, where we are having our vehicles start even without block heaters. and we had a thermal gun on one and got it up to about 70 degrees temperature in under 20 minutes. So propane absolutely loves to be cold, and then you couple that in with our fuel injection technology, we can start at 120 degrees or negative 55 degrees with the same reliability. What's also really cool, and I feel like this is kind of a flex for us in Bluebird, is when you look at a lot of these new clean energy technologies that are out there, most of them have to get flatbedded once they get built to their end user destination, right? But propane, they get driven. So every time a propane powered school bus is built in Fort Valley, Georgia, at Bluebird's manufacturing plant, it doesn't have to get on a flatbed. Mostly those are diesel. They could just get the keys in them and drive them everywhere in North America. The only place they have to get on a boat would be Hawaii and Alaska. But other than that, they're driving. So we like to be able to boast and say, hey, we're made to travel, and we put us on your longest routes. Also on the commercial aspect, as you can see, we do a lot of different applications that are here, all exclusively with Ford Motor Company at the moment. Whether that's deliver little bites hostesses, AAA, Ivy League universities. Schwann's has been running propane since Jimmy Carter was in office, and then they sold their company. But they were doing this back in the 80s before the injection technology that we have today. Universities and, of course, beverage haulers as well. Scissor lift catering companies at the airport. We're looking at Seven Springs, which is just one of many different ski resorts that we have, airport shuttle applications, and then the United States Mail Service. What I love about the United States Postal Service is they go about, I would argue, 20,000 up to 100,000 miles per vehicle per year. So that one vehicle standing behind Lisa Maccabee runs about 18,000 gallons of propane per vehicle per year. And because they're basically 7 days a week operated hot swaps. So you talk about reducing emissions. It's pretty exciting to see. And then, of course, there's the savings. Another very popular vertical market outside of school bus that we operate in is the transit market, paratransit, shared ride, so public transportation. And a lot of them are in rural application areas that aren't, near a natural gas pipeline or not near, a grid that's up to state. So they're looking at, their community and how can we help reduce our environment. So propane has been pretty fantastic. So this is a Pennsylvania transit operator on the eastern side, which actually originated from EPACT, which is the Pennsylvania Clean Cities organization. So they actually did a survey on one particular transit that wanted to go green. They said, hey, we don't know what energy source we need to use for our transportation, but we want to be able to bring a green solution. Which one's going to be the best for us? So based on their application, their routes, their location, their duty cycle, Tony Bandiero said, hey, have you looked at propane? I'd like to introduce you to Roush to kind of look through. And it took a couple of years, but fast forward to today, they've got 75 propane vehicles. They've got 2 electric, 1 hybrid, and they've got 26 more propane vehicles on order. And they're saving anywhere from $12,000 to $18,000 per vehicle per year in fuel costs alone. So what's really exciting for them is they've saved to date over $1 million in their budget just on fuel costs. And it's pretty exciting as you talk to Maria Church, who is the fleet compliance coordinator there, what that means for their organization and where those monies can go back into investing into, the shop, into keeping drivers or hiring drivers or paying them more. It's pretty exciting. So hard to be environmentally sustainable if you're not fiscally sustainable first. So we like to factor in the core, right? So cost, operation, resilience, and environment. So we've kind of gone through and put ourselves in the position of the fleet application. And again, we're not going to be everything for everyone, but in that class 4 through 7 application, we feel like propane fits quite well, even without using renewable propane, which is the next best thing, right? So you're in the shop, you don't have to do costly repairs, right? Whereas some other clean energy technologies, you have to retrofit the garage or you have to upgrade a grid. With propane, as long as you're currently set up with gas and diesel, you're fine with propane. On the resilience side, which is really hitting harm right now, I just saw on LinkedIn transit operator that said, every time I see my propane bobtail, I'm reminded I'm saving $2.50 a gallon because he's paying about 165 for propane and gasoline's around 425, 430 where he's at. So this is what's really cool. He's locked in for 2 years on his propane price because given the fact that we are the Saudi Arabia of propane, we produce more of it, it has an infinite shelf life. It doesn't go bad. You don't need additives or winterization. A lot of the propane companies can lock in your fuel price for a year, 2 years. There's one that locked in for 3 years. So they know what they're going to be paying per gallon for propane, no matter what happens on a geopolitical stage. Whereas on the gasoline and diesel side, right, we're really all feeling that at the pump. But with propane, that insulates you. So it's really cool. I mentioned this is just kind of gives you the atoms and molecular design of propane, infinite shelf life. Gas and diesel have a little bit more of a struggle when it comes to maintaining their purity, their integrity, and the quality of their fuel. But then not associated, of course, you're looking at the cost of the fuel as its own. But propane will last forever. And that's mainly due to just the cleanly properties of it. And I always like to tell people we cook with it, right? We don't cook with gas or diesel. We let propane touch our food. So we trust it there. We've trusted it even before the EPA came out. We were running forklifts inside garages, right, on propane. And we did that because of the cleanliness. So elevate that to today, we're getting even better. On the environmental side, this is my favorite because it not just because of what we're breathing in and why we're trying to leave this, earth better than we found it, but just for the practical environmental side, it doesn't leak. It doesn't contaminate water, soil. It's not even technically a greenhouse gas. So when you look at gas and diesel tanks, I've worked with a lot of fleets over the years, and unfortunately, if it's man-made, it's going to break. And at some point, some of these underground diesel and gasoline tanks could get damaged and unfortunately could leak into groundwater supply. With propane, you insulate yourself from that as well. We were able to put a 2,000-gallon propane tank in downtown Frontage Road in Boston, and they weren't even allowed to put gasoline and diesel there. So it's really a great flex and a testament to the cleanliness of the fuel and how the EPA looks at it. Obviously, I'm a big believer in the air quality side of it. Originally, I'm from California, but as somebody who's helped work with school districts and student transportation to get off of diesel and into propane, this is something that hits pretty close with me. And if any of you guys, I'll give a little plug to Netflix. They have a show called Dirty Money and Hard Knocks is episode one that kind of goes into some of the different emissions because there's greenhouse gases, but there's also nitrogen oxide, particulate matter, soot, and educating and seeing, okay, what emissions really are harmful to us as humans, but then also harmful to the environment, and how are we working to bring those all down collectively? And we're very proud that propane offers such a very low emission footprint when it comes to the harmful emissions. But even from generating, right? So a lot of people are looking at whether it's electric or natural gas or electrification. I would also have people do a little bit more of a dive to look at, okay, if you're looking at the general national grid, it's all over the board. Some people are doing coal, some people are doing hydro, some people are doing nuclear. I live in South Carolina. About 56% of all the electricity is generated through nuclear, right? Other people are doing wind and combination of different sources, natural gas. And so when you're looking at where you're going to be plugging in, let's say an electric vehicle, I would argue let's pick on Wyoming. That might be the worst thing is to drive an electric vehicle in Wyoming just because of the way that they generate their electricity. Whereas propane has a much more stable carbon intensity footprint because of the way that it is brought from the earth. This just kind of gives people a little bit of an awakening. We are here. It's 2027 is knocking on our door, and people that have been in the automotive space and managed a fleet prior to 2007, that point two is actually at 4. So we went from 4 to point 2, and then next year we're going down to 0.035. So kind of the law of diminishing return here. The closer you get to zero, the harder it gets to get that emission footprint lower. So right now we're dealing with about $25,000 to $30,000 worth of after treatment under a diesel vehicle. When that goes to 27, that'll probably double, if not triple, on the emission side. So a little more complexity to be able to reduce the harmful emissions that are coming out of that tailpipe. And then 2031 is going to be another game changer. On the operations side, we work with Ford Motor Company exclusively at the moment. We boast a lot of power and torque, especially given that almost every other engine manufacturer has had to either add fluids or pull power to be able to meet certain emissions. But Ford was able to work this engine, 7.3 liter V8 engine, into making it smaller and leaner, but also lower greenhouse gas, lower NOx, while boosting horsepower and torque. So this was their response to the 6.8 liter V10 going away and introducing something that was going to be, very, very serviceable and simple for fleet operators that are operating in the class 4 through 7 space. One of the nice things that a lot of our school districts and transit and different municipality fleets get to work with is, okay, we work with an engine that's built 1,000 a day. Next year, they're probably looking at 1,200 a day because of the demand. So for fleet managers, it's not going to be a once-off engine, right? And unfortunately, we've seen those in a lot of our industries. We have one engine that gets brought out of a crate somewhere and bored out and put in. And then when the funding runs out 2 years later, that engine supplier is no longer available, which then that fleet has to hang on to that for the next 5 to 10 years. And it gets really, really tough. When you deal with a high volume like Ford, you get parts, service, support, experience, and then you can find a lot of these different applications in, Rock Auto, and a lot of different service applications that are out there. So very, very simple, seamless serviceability. And what's really cool is now we're seeing fleets that have operated a propane powered vehicle for the full life of their vehicle. So 10, 12, sometimes 20 years, right? Those 10 to 12 vehicles, they're starting to replace and sell their used vehicles into a secondary market and buy new. So not a lot of clean energies can boast that to where it's made an entire life cycle of a fleet. And we have a large variety of different referrals that we like to sheepdog people to ask them how has it come from generation, 1 to generation 5 now, over the 12 years. We have a lot of fleets that are running 100% propane, boasting 50% less operation for fuel and maintenance. And then I'm going to stop talking and let one of my good friends, Kelly Rodunda, who's received about 3 national sustainability awards, and how she went from a very precarious situation that I won't get into detail to flipping her fleet completely into propane and what that looked like for her district outside of Philadelphia.
There, I'm Kelly Redunda, the Transportation Director at Upper Moreland School District in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. In my 23 years of transporting students, nothing has been more exciting than our adoption of propane-powered school buses. Our bus fleet was pretty primitive with not enough money in the budget for replacements. We decided to think outside the box and began exploring the possibilities of propane. The infrastructure, buses, and fuel are more affordable than CNG, electric, or gas. It is environmentally friendly with price stability and requires little to no changes to our maintenance facility. Our dream team of vendor reps provided us with the education and tools we needed to get unanimous support from our board. With approximately $633,000 in grant funding, we were able to upgrade our parking lot, purchase a propane infrastructure with an 18,000-gallon tank, dispenser, and 40 propane buses. Our district was the first district-owned fleet in the state of Pennsylvania to adopt propane. Our staff and first responders were trained on how propane works, the design of the buses, and the operational difference from diesel buses. The first year of propane operation, our district saved $250,000 in maintenance and fuel costs. We are currently displacing CO2 emissions annually by 596 metric tons and have been recognized with numerous awards. We could not have brought such a successful program to our district without the help of our representatives from Bluebird, ROUSH, Rhodes Energy, and Brightbill Body Works. They helped our district every step of the way in every aspect of adopting a propane fleet.
So I'll also give a really cool shout out to Tony Bandiero, EPACT. He was the one that helped come alongside and provide the writing and the grant funding for the infrastructure and the vehicle technology to help Kelly really go from a lemon to lemonade situation within her district, which has worked out very, very well. Also, we've got a lot of these that are running in very rural applications in America. So St. Louis County is right on the border in Minnesota, bordering Canada. They have a propane rolls first right there in their break room before they head out into their lot. And she was the hardest no on propane because her mother ran propane in vehicles in the 80s and 90s. And it was, vapor technology. It was very dependent on the pressure in the tank. Whereas ours, we have fuel pumps, just like gasoline. So she told her daughter, Kay, don't ever do propane. So when the Bluebird dealer said, hey, you should look at propane, she says, if you ever mention that to me, we'll never do it and we'll never buy a bus from you ever. Long story short, she needed a bus in a very unique situation for a spare. And fast forward to today, 95% of their fleet runs on propane. In fact, they're taking their propane buses to Peoria, Illinois for the robotics camp and back and having no problem finding propane along the way. And Kay says, anyone who is adamant on jumping into propane, please have them call me first. So she's one of our biggest champions. Just give you an idea of behind the scenes, under the hood. If you look at replacing a Cummins engine right now, which is pretty popular in the school bus and medium duty application, you're looking at about $30,000 to replace that engine. If you want to look at replacing a Ford engine, you're looking at under $12,000. Fully dressed, gaseous fuel prepped, out the door. You look at a short block, you're probably looking at closer to $6,000. So very, very affordable when you look at replacing engine for engine. On the cost side, these are just generic numbers. Every dealer and every market is different, but gasoline and diesel are almost about the same now. Propane, the maximum it will be about $10,000 more than a conventional school bus. But again, every market's different. And then on the electrification side, still pretty expensive. Right now, it's anywhere from $400,000 to $475,000 for an electric bus. So Bluebird is really the school bus consultant, company that's out there now, because they can provide gas, diesel, propane, or electric for their different applications. We always like to do a savings calculation, whether you're a private, for public, school bus, transit, airport, shuttle, commercial application, doesn't matter. We like to say, hey, before we do anything, let's run the numbers, because if it doesn't make fiscal sense, we don't think necessarily it should be implemented, because we don't want the bottom line to suffer. I think the FedEx president said it well at the ACT Expo this year was, it can't be sustainable if you're not in business, which was pretty blunt. But we want to make sure that you're getting a positive ROI return on your fleet application when you're choosing and looking at propane. These are just some of the numbers we've gotten from New York, about 34 cents per mile savings for diesel versus propane. This one's kind of a worst case application because of their trip routes and how they route and how they drive and how they idle. But this was pre-Iran conflict currently, but they're saving about $70,000 for the vehicle over the life of the vehicle, about 45% less. In Maine, we have one that's operating about 16 cents per mile, a little more narrow because of the current pricing that they were seeing the deltas, but they were still seeing $91,000 in their fiscal year 24 on fuel alone for 33 buses. And then you look at Wauwanii School District in Indiana, which we're going to hear from very shortly, at about 28 cents per mile saving. Now, these are all their numbers that they've come back with, because they have to present to their board every single year when it's time for vehicle purchases. Hey, what are we buying? And right now, propane is the hottest ticket item because of the low cost per gallon. And as you can see in this one, $1.09, she's paying that because, unlike some other fuels and propulsion, is the more propane you buy, the less you pay. It's a volume of scale equation. So when she bought her first 4 buses, probably close to 10 years ago, that was closer to probably $1.60, $1.80. But now that most of her fleet is running on propane and she went to an 18,000 gallon tank, which is a transport load, now she's saving infinitely more. So it's more you use, the less you pay. And here is from one last video before I lean it over into questions.
I am Bobby Kroner. I'm mom of 3, and Caroline is 9.5. Sydney will be 8 here shortly, and Brooks is 6. So our typical morning is get up, do breakfast, get our lunches, get bags packed, feed the dog, that kind of stuff, and head out the door and get on the bus.
We are a community of 2 towns. One is the city of Napanee, and about 10 miles away is the town of Wakarusa. It combines to make 247 square miles for our district. We transport about 70% of the 3,000 students that attend here at Wauwanii. Our fleet size here at Wauwanii is 55 vehicles, and 11 of those are on the road every day, powered by propane. Wauwanii transitioned to propane buses in 2017. We've been replacing our buses 4 propane buses each school year since. We're funding our propane buses through our current bus replacement plan with local funding. We're also taking advantage of federal grants that are available so that we can have a clean energy fleet. Transition to propane went very well for us. We did a lot of education up front with our school board, students, drivers. From then on, the process was very smooth. Because our propane provider provides an internet-based system, we're able to automatically know when the tank is empty, and we're automatically notified when they have come to fill the tank. So that's one less thing on my plate.
Propane is a great fuel source for transportation, but it's good for buses because the cargo is so special. It's better for the student because they're quieter, they're healthier, they're cleaner. Think about it yourself. You've been behind a school bus. When it pulled away, you see that cloud of black smoke. When you have a propane school bus, that black cloud is gone. When a school system makes the transition, they will save on the order of $3,000 to $5,000 per bus. And in fact, if we converted the entire national fleet to propane from diesel, we'd save enough money to hire 23,000 new teachers. The real benefit, though, is in the emissions, that each child, as we move away from diesel, they're given this quieter, healthier, safer ride to school. It's the modern way to transport children to school.
So the one thing that I really like about the propane buses is they heat up much, much faster. They warm up within like 10-15 minutes versus the diesel buses, which take anywhere from a half hour to an hour to warm up. I like them overall because they are smoother and quieter. And the most important thing for me, they're more environmentally friendly. So I like the fact that it saves our planet.
Just knowing that it's a cleaner burning fuel, we're doing our part, warms a mama's heart for sure. And just knowing that the bus is, when I was riding as a kid, colder, not quite as comfortable. So this is a little bit more of a comfortable ride for the kids too.
Propane is for the student. It's for the driver. It's for the community in which these buses operate. Propane is energy for everyone.
Yeah, a lot of people ask, like why are you guys so excited, so amped up about propane? And I'm like, if you traveled the country, and I've lived in California, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Georgia, South Carolina is where I'm currently at now. But when you talk to enough private and public fleet operation, people, whether it's they're operating in cold weather climates or on really shallow, narrow, tight budgets, and you see what this delivers to them. And then I won't name names because they asked me not to, but like there's been a lot of different fleets that are out there. Their yard is just not conducive for a lot of diesel idling. So a lot of their drivers were, having problems with just breathing. And once they moved them into a propane bus, they immediately saw a benefit, and having a transportation director, Diane from Township 211 outside Chicago, they moved all of their special needs routes buses onto propane because they saw that the children weren't triggered, whether it was temperature wise or auditorial wise or even on the vibration size. It was a smoother, quieter ride. So when they entered into the classroom, they didn't have to spend 30, 45 minutes calming them down. They walked in just seamlessly, and they didn't need any of their special care. And my little brother has special needs, so I understand and can relate heavily to that. So we're still seeing all of these great benefits to propane, not just the fuel cost savings, which is huge, and the emission savings, but just the quality of life that it's brought to a lot of these different fleet applications. So thank you, Gregory. Hopefully, I didn't get Tom in too much hot water for him tapping me to present today, but we very, very much appreciate the opportunity and how much you guys do for us. But just, high tide rises all ships. We're such big believers. If you don't choose propane, choose something, right? And reach out to your local Clean Cities organization to help them get you there and filter you where you need to go. Thanks, Gregory.
Of course, Derek, thank you so much for this presentation. If you've made it this far in the recording, I hope you have learned a good bit about propane and ROUSH CleanTech as a whole and have a better understanding of propane as an alternative fuel source in the transportation space. If you'd like to know more about Virginia Clean Cities or ROUSH, like I said at the beginning, please follow the links below. And if you'd like to be a part of future technology happy hours, our next one is on June 18th from 3 to 4 p.m. Please sign up for our mailing list and the technology happy hour itself. Until next time, I'm Gregory Brennan. Thank you for tuning in.